Hey everybody, it's Eric. I'm here with Steel Wheels, and I've got the good fortune of having Tyler Grant from, well, Grant Farms, one of his main projects. It's on hiatus right now, but also he's played with Emmett Nurshi and boy, a whole host of other people. National flat picking champion, uh, one flat picking at Winfield. I've taken classes from Tyler, and just always been impressed with your music, Tyler. So thank you for taking some time out this morning to chat with me, and love to pick your brain.
Hey Eric, thanks for having me here on Steel Wheels.
So what you started out in music pretty young, right?
High school, I was no child prodigy by any means. I started when I was 14, and it was just kind of something to do after school. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought that music would be my profession and my life's mission.
So you weren't a Berkeley kid.
No, well, I went to Cal Arts. That's something to hang your hat on.
Well, Cal Arts is pretty cool, but it ain't Berkeley. But yeah, it is pretty cool. Absolutely. But I think of Cal Arts as a visual arts program, a visual arts school. I've never really heard about their music program. So
Yeah, it's one of the top music conservatories in the country, and it is pretty broad in its scope. When you're a student at Cal Arts, you're supposed to kind of go in there and create new things. There are systems in place, obviously, but it's a place to really be creative and do things that aren't going to make you a living, so to speak.
So I mentioned your flat picking, and of course you've done a bunch of other contests. But as part of doing contests, you're at the festivals. You often get roped into doing clinics and classes, right?
And I often volunteer to do them. I've been an educator for a long time, and it's something that I enjoy. Um, and something that I always feel like I have something to offer, and I'm happy to have that extra exposure at the workshop stages, and it also kind of enables some collaboration. Oftentimes, you get put with other musicians from the festival, and I really enjoy doing the workshops. It's an extra opportunity for performing, and also just to help kind of open some doors for folks who might benefit from that.
Well, as a member of the Festivarian community, I can tell you that having access to the musicians that are up on the main stage and being able to take classes from them is a huge deal, even if most of us will never actually gig or perform, on the road or whatever. So really enjoyed taking the classes with you. Now, I have a question. You played with Emmett Nurshi. As most of my experience up at Stage Stop in Rollinsville is foggy at best, were you playing up there with them when Jeff Austin joined you on stage?
At the Stage Stop, we've done lots of playing with Jeff, and I've actually done a couple gigs, with the Jeff Austin band as the guitarist. There have been talk about foggy. Let's see. I don't even remember last time Emmett Nurshi Band played the Stage Stop. I left the band in 2010 to start Grant Farm, and Johnny Grubb took over on the bass, and they played for about another year or so, maybe a couple years after I left. So that may have happened.
It would have been in '08, or yeah, '08 or '09.
Then I was there. Yeah.
Oh heavens! I love Jeff. I went to the last show and the tribute show that happened. I've always loved Jeff. I think he's an amazing musician and a fantastic mandolin player, like just top-notch mandolin player. But I've always thought of Jeff as more of a rock star. I know we're off on a tangent here. I'll try and bring it back, I promise. But I've always thought of Jeff as more of a rock star than a bluegrass musician, even though that's what they did, and they were just straightforward bluegrass in many ways. But I always thought he was just a smoking hot mandolin player. And he came down and he played with Drew, and they got into a duel. And Jeff left. He just he like finished the song, and he took his mandolin and went back upstairs and just hung out backstage. And Stage Stop doesn't have a big backstage. It's like that little nook up behind it's the stairway almost. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jeff, was a bit of a victim of his own sort of creation, I guess you could say. And to what you're saying, yeah, fabulous musician, great singer, someone who studied and worked really hard, as did all the other guys in the band in Yonder Mountain. But Jeff was one of these guys who everybody wanted to be his buddy. Everybody wanted to hang out with him. And this is one of the secrets to the success of Yonder Mountain, is they created this whole persona of like, these are the guys we want to hang out with. How cool are they? And Jeff was one of the funniest dudes ever. Like, real charming guy, hilarious dude to hang out with. And around that time, around '08, I'm not sure, what was happening, with him personally, but he and I were good buddies, and he never confided any of this to me, but I kind of observed that he was getting a little bit overloaded, a little bit burned out, and it was a bit of a struggle for him to deal with, people who always wanted to come up and talk. And imagine like Jeff Austin walking into a crowded show at the Stage Stop. Everyone's gonna, I mean, it happens to me, and I'm no big rock star, but it's hard for me to walk from one end to a festival to the other, even if I have something to do, because people recognize me and want to say hi. And with Jeff, that was probably really intense for him. And I know for a fact that it's something that Drew and Bill had to deal with, Drew Emmett and Bill Nershi. And when I was in the band, one of the things I would do for them is kind of, we called it the pick and roll. Every now and then, if they just got accosted by somebody wanting to talk, we called it Guysering. Someone wanted to come geyser them. You guys are this, you guys are great. The first time I saw you guys was this and that. Everyone wants to tell you about the first time they saw you. And that's great. And we all love being there for our fans. But every now and then, it's like you got something to do. You got to get backstage, or you got to get ready for the show or whatever. And so I would kind of like go talk to this person and let Bill or Drew slip away. I'd kind of go block for them, the old pick and roll. So I remember most shows, and we did a lot of shows at the Stage Stop, a couple with Emmett Nershi and a bunch of them with Drew Emmett Band early on when I was playing with him. And I don't remember that moment specifically, but I can only assume that that's probably what Jeff was going through. And he lived in that neighborhood at the time, right outside of Rollinsville in Gilpin County. And him and Bill Nershi were actually neighbors. And, we'd see him up there in the neighborhood sometimes.
I personally, because I was trying to learn mandolin at the time, I just saw it as, Drew's got that hummingbird thing that he does.
I call it the jet engine, the jet engine lick. When it just gets going so loud and this fast tremolo thing, and yeah.
And I mean, that you can't match that. Like when somebody throws that at you, that was like Jordan throwing out the cross picking in that jet. It was like just shut everything down, because like who can follow that? And so that was kind of what had happened. I don't think it was anything but I mean, I see what you're saying, and certainly this was right after that electric performance at the Boulder Theater, where the Take Me Down to the Riverside, and that whole right after he got divorced, that they were just on fire. So anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about you, because we're not here to talk about Jeff. I love Jeff, but let's talk about one of the things I really love about bluegrass music is it's reliable. It's predictable, but in that predictability is a lot of room for creativity. But it's built like a box. It's got four sides. It's 4-on-4, and it always stays true to that. And man, this first song that we've got from you, Tyler, is a great example of just how you can fit a lot of creativity inside of that rigid structure, as it were. I really like the Last Day on the Job. I like the whole sound. All the instruments come in and have a voice, and it sounds real good. Can you tell us a little bit about this song?
Well, sure. But first, about what you're saying about bluegrass music. it's a system. It is a musical system, and there are some musical systems which have remained unchanged for hundreds of years, including Hindustani music, classical music, and Baroque systems. And in bluegrass music, there is this same, like you said, there's corners to it. There are sort of rules, you could say, and roles that all the instruments play. However, within that system, obviously there's plenty of room for experimentation. And Bill Monroe set up this system that way. He didn't do it alone. He had lots of help. But once that system was established, it was kind of set in stone what all the instruments do and what their roles are. Like, I'm not going to show up with an electric guitar in the middle of that song. It would sound cool, but it wouldn't be bluegrass anymore. And this song itself, you know, there's lots of bluegrass purists that would argue whether or not it's actually bluegrass. But it's a song I recorded on an album called Earth and Wood, and I hadn't done anything acoustic in a long time. I hadn't released any acoustic music in a long time because we've been working on Grant Farm pretty full time ever since 2010. And so I decided, okay, it's time to do a bluegrass album, or an acoustic album at least. And this song, Last Day on the Job, it was one of those lines that just came to me. And, you know, as a songwriter, you're always kind of writing down little lines. And that popped up somewhere, Last Day on the Job. I thought, oh, that's a song that has to be written. So I wrote that song after my dad had retired. And that was for all my friends and family who are retired and those who dream of retiring someday. And it's got Adrian Engfer on the bass and singing the tenor, Jordan Ramsey on mandolin singing the baritone part on the choruses, my good buddy Patrick Haper, Pat Fiddle playing the fiddle, and Dusty Ryder on the banjo.
Wow. All right, well, let's give a listen to that song. And by the way, one of the coolest moments I ever experienced was a pick that was going on at Rocky Grass with Jordan. And in the middle of it, he started just cross-picking, and everybody else just fell out. Like, we couldn't, like, it almost ended the song.
He's a machine.
Incredible. Yeah. All right, well, let's give it a listen.
Been a long time since I felt this way. New horizons, a better place. Been counting down the years up to this day. Now the sun is rising and I'm finding my way out of this race. Paid my debts, I punched that clock. Fare you well, it's been a long time coming. Cleaned my desk, turned in my loan. Gonna cash that check, it's the last day on the job. I've got some clothes and all my gear packed up. The old dog's waiting out in the truck. I got no badge and I don't care no more. The only clearance that I need is under my 4x4. Paid my debts, I punched that clock. Fare you well, it's been a long time coming. I cleaned my desk, turned in my lawn. Gonna cash that check, it's the last day on the job. might have helped some folks along my way. Took my orders, drew my pay, provided for my home and family. Now I'm flying down the highway and I'm finally breaking free. Paid my debts, I punched that clock. Fare you well, it's been a long time coming. Cleaned my desk, turned in my log. Gonna cash that check, it's the last day. I'm gonna cash that check, it's the last day. Yeah, I'm gonna cash that check, it's the last day on the job.
Wow, Tyler, this next song really hit me. I don't know if you had any idea what you were asking for, but I think you got it. Yeah, you said you wish it would rain and you could stay home and play with all your toys. You certainly got your wish.
Right. Well, this is another song that, I've been going through and doing all these performances on Fridays. This will be week 8 coming up, and I don't repeat any songs. So it's 2-hour sets, 8 weeks in a row. This will be week 8 of no repeats. And so I keep having to dig for music, and it doesn't matter what I thought of the song before this whole pandemic, but they all have different meanings now, including Last Day on the Job. Like when I first played that song, I didn't want people to take it the wrong way. This is not about unemployment. This is about retirement.
Sorry.
But yeah, this song, I Wish That It Would Rain, this was part of a grand statement that we made with Grant Farm on our 2016 album Kiss the Ground, which was kind of like our homage to the working people. And the statement was basically that people are expected to work way too hard these days. Too many hours. I mean, it's typical for someone to work a 50-plus hour week, and that, to me, is just not natural. I mean, some people really love what they do and they have a mission. Many are just, working a desk job, basically trading their life for income. And, like Thoreau, obviously, railed against this in his writings. And you work your whole life just to afford this house to live in, but you have no time to live in it. So that was the statement we were making with Kiss the Ground. And this song in particular, is just based on the unfairness of having to work so hard and not having any time to really enjoy your life or enjoy your home, enjoy your family. I'm lucky because I get to work in music all the time. I do plenty of stuff I don't like, including, promotions and, working the dang computer all day. But it's all related to music and it's all related to my mission. So I'm lucky in that sense. But this is kind of written from the perspective of, a laborer who just wishes for a day off.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I totally get it. Well, this song that we've got with "Wish It Would Rain." What were you thinking of when you first put that one together?
Yeah, that's I was just looking out the window, honestly, and sometimes songs just come to you, and I was strumming those little chords, and woke up in the morning feeling so secure, looking out my little window to the world. So there's several meanings to it. It's part of it is perspective of just what you're seeing. And that kind of ties into, this whole situation we're in, which we've always been in, but it's really magnified in this last, since the last election, let's say. People's perception, they're seeing things through their own little window. And it comes down to just, a few simple truths. One of them is that, again, we're expected to work way too much, and 2, that it's unfair to work for the type of wages that most people are working for. So it's a bit of a protest song for fair pay.
I wish it would rain. It was just kind of like I wish it would rain so I don't have to go out and deal with the work world anymore. Well, it's,
Yeah, and also just don't have to face anything other than what you're looking at. You know, like you don't have to face this great uh, problem, you know, and all the problems of the world, you know, all the trouble. It's all about just kind of giving yourself the opportunity to uh, get back inside and see things within yourself that you might be distracted from by just observing all the troubles of the world and all the troubles of your life.
well, it's really interesting how it's kind of flipped around, and now you can kind of perceive the song in a bunch of different ways. Um, um, we've all been kind of forced to stay home and figure out what toys we have so we can keep ourselves occupied. uh, anyway, let's give that song a listen. I really enjoyed it.
Woke up in the morning feeling so secure, looking out my little window to the world. Sunshine begs me to join the day, but I wish that it would rain. I spoke to the lawyer and I spoke to the man. He told me that I gotta work as hard as I can and trade the best years of my life away. How I wish that it would rain. Wish that it would rain. Give me an excuse to stay inside, pull out all my toys and play. How I wish that it would rain today. Yeah, I wish that it would rain. It just don't seem fair that to make ends meet, you gotta work over 48 hours a week and pray someday for a living wage. God, I wish that it would rain. There's nothing more to say from where I sit. I just never want to be a part of this. The wind is blowing way too hard today, and I wish that it would rain. I wish that it would rain. Give me an excuse to stay inside, pull out all my toys and play. How I wish that it would rain today. Yeah, I wish that it would rain. Give me one good reason to stay inside, pull out my guitar and play. How I wish that it would rain today. Woke up in the morning feeling so secure, looking out my little window to the world.
What? Okay, so you, how many gigs do you do a year?
Well, I was playing until this whole lockdown. It's not really that much different now. I'm just doing a lot of it from home. But, you know, it was, 80 to 100 gigs with Grant Farm and then another probably 80 or so on my own.
So you're doing almost 200, maybe 160 to 200 gigs a year, right?
Yep.
Whether they're teaching or performing or whatever. But you're on the road, you're out doing this stuff. And when did you first realize that things weren't going to be going forward as they had been, that you had to change?
It all kind of happened all of a sudden, like exactly the same time as it happened for everybody else. And I think this was the week before St. Patty's Day. That's kind of the landmark that I remember, because we had already kind of put this hiatus announcement out for Grant Farm, where we were only going to have a limited number of shows left up until about June, including a few, really fun festivals that we were really looking forward to. So things were already sort of changing for me. I was already trying to kind of figure out what to do next. And I was booking some dates on my own, trying to figure out what to call it, Tyler Grant Band or this or that. I don't really like doing that, but I was trying to think of what the next project was going to be, because Grant Farm, it's a special thing among the four of us, and I'd rather keep it that way and hope that maybe we can play again when the time comes. And I've always had my own sort of solo thing going anyway. I had that before I even started Grant Farm. So I was trying to figure out where to go. I can always go do acoustic solo gigs and workshops and things like that. I could pick up and join a bluegrass band, or I could pick up and join some really hip sort of, rock and roll jam band or something. I even kind of threw a pitch to the JGB after their guy had left, and they ended up picking up John Kadlicek, which is cool. He's the guy for that. But it would be fun. I already had this vision of like, wouldn't it be great to just play guitar for a band and not have to be like the leader anymore, not have to like do the big push, just go play music again, because I was pretty burned out as well, because Grant Farm, we never really attracted management. We had a good agent and things like that, but we were running the whole thing ourselves, and it's very grassroots, and that's just something I always kind of did out of necessity. I went to school for music. I didn't go to school for business, and the music industry is something that I have been banging my head against for a long time, trying to figure out how to do it, how to make it really work.
Right.
So I was already, in a way, when this whole thing happened, I said, okay, I'm just going to back off and try to not be a leader. Like, this was a time that I really was seeking leadership. I would love to have a leader kind of showing me what to do. And then a whole series of events happened. First, and I lost my dad last summer. And then my cousin Dave, who was more like an uncle to me, he passed away in February. And then this whole thing happened. And I kind of moped around for about a week. I guess it was the March 12th or something like that, when everybody realized that shows were going to get canceled. And I had a busy season lined up, and it was going to be most of my income for the near future. And so I thought, cool, I'm going to get all this done. We're going to do all these last Grant Farm shows, knock it all out, and then I'll have some time to sit back and, maybe go camping, maybe do something to get away and sort of figure out what the next move is. And then boom, all of a sudden, here we are in this new weird reality. And I kind of, I saw people doing online shows, like immediately people are doing their little performances on their iPhones and asking for tips. And I was looking at that thinking, oh, yeah, I guess this is something we're going to have to learn how to do. And it only took me about a week before I started doing them. And I'm glad that I did. I'm glad I got into that routine because not just the performances, like I said, this will be week 8 of the Friday show, the Friday No Repeat show here coming up tomorrow. But also I've been putting out workshops, and I started doing these Monday night bluegrass play along jams, which have become sort of the most popular thing I do. And I've actually been able to squeeze out a living doing this, and it's almost like I've been forced to start this solo career, so to speak, and forced to take the initiative to do things that are going to keep me relevant in this scene as it moves forward, however that's going to look. So, in other words, there's no vacation for Tyler Grant. Right. It's do or die.
Once your gigs started getting canceled, you pretty much had to figure something else out right away, because that's what you were planning on doing for work, right?
Yeah, that's my income, and so started doing the concerts and the online workshops, and fortunately, I also have a lot of assignment work from jamplay.com. It's an online guitar lesson service, one of the top websites in the world for guitar lessons, and I've worked for them since 2013 doing lesson series, and I had just wrapped up a week of filming up at their studio as this was unfolding. The week before the 15th of March, I was filming 2 series for them. One of them was called Jamming in a Jam Band, which is so cool. I profiled the styles of Jerry Garcia, Duane Allman, Dickie Betts, Bob Weir, Carlos Santana, some of the Mount Rushmore of jam band guitar players, and did a whole series about how to jam in a jam band. And that was really fun. And also did a series on Country Telecaster. So that happened like boom, and then the shutdown happened the next week. So I was really lucky to get that assignment in at their studio, and that's all, going to be released eventually on their site. And then they have offered a bunch of their instructors to do live lessons from home. So I have 2 live lessons a week for jam play that I do. So that's Tuesday and Thursday. And they often hit me up to do some other auxiliary things, assignments for beginners or, whatever subject that they need. So that's kept me busy as well. And I've, taken a couple of Skype students every week. So it's really, mom and dad always, there's 2 lessons I learned young. One, mom and dad were always worried about me getting into music because it's a tough way to make a living, and they always wanted me to have a backup plan. And they're both educators, and I worked with kids since I was young, and I started teaching lessons really young. I started teaching guitar lessons when I was 18. So I've gotten really good at that. So that's something that I've always had as a backup plan, so to speak. And then number 2, my Uncle Bob told me, Tyler, you're not going to get paid for what you do. You're going to get paid for what you know. So I've been able to put these things together and sort of cash in a little bit early, I guess you could say, on my backup plan. I'm still planning on getting out and performing, and these weekly performances, the Friday night shows, are as much for me as anyone else, because I'm not good at putting it away for a long time and then coming back. I kind of have to stay in shape as a performer and a guitarist and singer. So these Friday shows have given me an opportunity to keep up my performance chops and be ready, when the time comes to do that again. It's a funny kind of simulation, playing for the camera and knowing that there's lots of people out there listening and enjoying it. And beyond that, I really have to hone in my skills. If I cough too much, there's no escape. I don't have a microphone. It's just the camera and me, the way I do it. So, I have to be really on my game, and it kind of puts me to the test every week and keeps up those chops.
I'm smiling because I have this whole list of questions that we've kind of worked our way through most of them without me having to ask any of them. So that's kind of why I was smiling. I'm like, we're basically at the, I have like just 2 or 3 more questions for you. We're done. So, but that's fantastic. It sounds to me like you are working more now than you were working when you were on the road.
In a way, I sort of like replaced all that driving time with productive time, I guess you could say. And the thing I miss the most is obviously performing and playing music with other people. I really miss the guys in the band. This was, it was so sad when, I mean, first of all, the whole hiatus thing and going through with all that was heartbreaking, because this is, you know, a mission of 10 years that is, I guess you could say, failed. I mean, it's done. You know, that thing is sort of put to bed for now. And we thought it was going to be a lot bigger by now. We thought things were going to be going a lot better for us. And in a way, we kind of, no pun intended, felt like the whole thing was taken for granted. You know, we put out this amazing product, but nobody really knew what to do with it. It wasn't bluegrass. It wasn't country. It ended up being kind of more of a jam band. And this business is just god-awfully brutal. I mean, I really feel for young music students coming up. And I would, you know, when I was in music school, I was that, you know, stars in my eyes, dreaming about this amazing life in music, which I've been able to fulfill, you know. So it all kind of comes down to like a reassessment of your goals and a readjustment of what you think success is. And I tell you, man, driving around in that van all the time and sharing hotel beds and sleeping on floors, going to set up for a concert at 8 where you start at 11 and play till 2, things like that, I don't miss at all. But I really miss the guys and miss playing music with them. We had arrived at such a great sound, such a great band. And it's really sad that all of our last shows got canceled. You know, we were looking forward to like going out and making the most of these. And we had even announced these as like farewell shows and hoping we got a lot of people to them. And then the whole thing just gets pulled out from under us. And I moped and was depressed about that. And I had a bunch of other work. I had some dates with Drew Emmett Band, or at least one big date with Drew. I had teaching camps coming up, a bunch of other fun stuff on my own. And it all got pulled. And I moped around, and then I realized what was really happening in the world and what was happening with this pandemic, and how many people are dying and how many people are alone and suffering. And I kind of put that all away and said, okay, we need to figure out what the mission is, how we can best help the world at this time. And I figured the best thing I could do was stay healthy, stay home, do the things that they're advising us to do, and also offer something to everybody who's stuck at home. So I've been able to engage with all these guitar players who really love the streams I'm putting out and the workshops, and I'm offering this, you know, donation based, but you know, I tell people, like, don't pay me if you don't have money. This is just something I'm doing for you because I have the means of doing it. And it's kind of turning into this new life where maybe I don't have to travel all the time. Maybe I can actually do a lot of this from home and travel a little bit more selectively. And maybe it doesn't matter if I'm a big headliner, you know, that's always what we were going for. That was always the big push, and all this pressure on us, like work our way up the festival tier. And, you know, it's really hard to push that hard and for that to not happen. And I'm not used to that in my life. I like to follow through with something until it gets to where it goes. But the universe will tell you things like, okay, maybe you've pushed this a little too far. Maybe it's time to reassess and go try something else. So, man, I think, you know, I'm optimistic about the future. And, you know, once we get through this pandemic, I hope the government pulls their shit together. I hope the world sees the danger of this kind of thing happening again and prepares for it. And I really believe that things are going to get back to some version of normal within the next couple of years. And by then I'll be 45, 46 and have plenty of time to still be out doing things. And all the music and all the musicians are still going to be doing what they do. I just hope that the powers that be, the authorities, and also the big dogs in the music industry do things responsibly and don't go out and try to monopolize this industry, because I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for the grassroots musicians and the up-and-comers to break into the scene.
There's a lot to unpack there, especially when it comes to the monopolizing of music and control. One of the things I do a lot building this channel is put up stuff, and if I put up people's music, like I did another person's interview and I got copyright strikes for it. So it's really interesting how much control there is over things, and how and I'm not complaining about YouTube. Actually, I understand that. I understand those copyright strikes. I actually saw it as a good thing, but it's one of those things that can be very frustrating because it's so Byzantine. There's so many layers to it, understanding the legal rights to music, and how even, where's that going to go? Where's that going to go, especially when people are doing stuff online? I honestly see more creep into the online world with that. Now that you mentioned that, I hadn't even thought about it, but that it's kind of scary to me, actually. ASCAP and BMI, scouring YouTube for any infraction they find too egregious. But I do want to come back to something you said a little earlier, which is just that I really am grateful that you are staying home, that you are putting your music out there for us to enjoy. I mean, it makes, I'm speaking for myself, but I believe I'm speaking for other people as well. It definitely enriches our lives to be able to share this. Also, unlike other music genres, this is one where you can approach the musicians and actually have a conversation. So that's not lost on me. I think that's really an amazing thing about bluegrass and about the type of music you play. It also occurs in jam music to a certain extent. Another thing I was going to ask you about was, do you miss the pocket?
The pocket? You mean playing with others and grooving?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very in the click, just not even hearing it.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I miss that. I miss that a ton. And I came to the realization a few weeks ago, because at first, my first concert was all acoustic, and then the next week I decided, I really need to play some electric guitar. So I started creating rhythm tracks, and I would do the drum track on GarageBand and then overdub the bass and the guitar parts. And then I would have a backing track, and I just turn on my little Marantz here, and I turn on the track, and I crank it up and play along. So what you hear, if you didn't see that, you might think it was an actual band playing, but all it is a simulation. This is a simulation of that. It's almost like I'm in a flight simulator, and the resolution is good enough that it kind of seems like it's a whole band. But anyway, we've taken that one step further, and in these last few weeks, I got Sean McCauley, Magic McCauley from Grant Farm, actually providing drum tracks for me. So I'll send him the song ideas. I might even, like, this week we're going to do Shakedown Street, and I even recorded with a click. I record the whole song, even the little intro jam, and then I record like the big jam at the end and get up to, okay, Sean, here comes the ending, cue the ending, do-do-do-do-do, boom, and then the stop.
Oh, you talk through it and the whole thing. Yeah,
so we actually like construct a living, breathing track that I can perform to, and it's the best simulation that I can find so far. And it's like, and the fun part about this is that Sean's sending me this drum track, and then I will put the bass down, and that's really fun. I'm like, whoa, I'm like jamming with my buddy Sean here, and then I'll put the rhythm guitar thing on and all that, and especially on these Dead songs, I'm exploring these like Phil Lesh bass parts, and that's really cool. And then on the Grant Farm songs, it's like I'm checking out Adrian's parts, like, whoa, this is great, actually playing those and getting into them, a lot deeper than I ever had before. So in a way, I find all these like vicarious ways of jamming with my buddies again. And it's not totally like classroom sterile. It's actually like living and breathing in this kind of crazy way, even though it's a simulation. It's never going to be the same as like actually performing with them. But yeah, I miss that a lot. But to that end, we are actually planning a Grant Farm show, and it's going to be in one of our driveways. We're going to announce it soon. It's probably going to happen here in the next couple weeks. And we're going to broadcast a Grant Farm show. I've got all the like streaming technology down, and the GoPro is a really good quality, version of that. Better than most of the, I'm kind of getting worn out on the bad laptop cams and audio. You know what I mean? And I, from the get-go, wanted to do something a little bit better, something sort of professional looking and sounding. So we're going to do that with Grant Farm coming up. And I don't know, I cannot imagine. I'm kind of trying to brace myself for like the emotions of all that and how it's going to go. But we're going to set up in a socially distanced way. There might be some folks from the neighborhood, coming over and distancing and enjoying the show. But we do actually get to play again. And yeah, I miss that a lot. And it will happen. It will happen again, for real in the future. But in the meanwhile, I'm just doing what I can to work on my skills and enjoy the elements of that are afforded to me.
Well, when it does happen, I would love to film it.
Cool. Well, I'll invite you.
Excellent. Boy, you like deja vu, like telepathy. You answered the questions, most of them, before I asked them. So I only have one question left. And actually, I have two questions left. The question, and then the question for the question. So can you guess the last question?
I can't read your mind that well.
All right. What's your favorite cheese?
My favorite cheese. Well, it's really funny because I was watching Monty Python's Flying Circus last night about the men who have a mouse fetish, and they eat their little cheese. Well, I'm vegan these days. I'm doing my best to be vegan, and I cheat. We cheat a little bit and throw some Parmesan on the noodles every now and then. I really like good sharp cheddar, like nice aged cheddar.
White or yellow?
White.
Oh, yes. I'm all for the white, the Cabot.
Yeah, give me like a Cabot or a nice like 8-year aged, real crumbly cheddar. And like, I don't know if you've ever been up to the Gold Hill Inn, but I really cut that cheese plate at the end, and they bring out all the different combinations. They bring out like some kind of sharp cheese, some kind of smoky cheese, and then some kind of stinky cheese. And then you like do the little flavor combos with that and a grape and that and a little piece of cracker and a little piece of apple. Oh, I love it.
I know the Gold Hill Inn really well because the U.S. Census sent me up there to count some guy who was living in a depression behind the inn. They sent me up there twice.
Oh, wow. I have friends who still own a mining claim up there from the 1880s.
I think the Depression was actually part of a mining claim. Anyway, yeah, that's about all I should say about that. I had to sign a bunch of disclaimer forms working for the census, so I shouldn't talk about it. But yeah, the Gold Hill Inn. I love that whole Nederland, Rollinsville area. Well, look, I'll put links below in the description for all of the stuff you're involved in. The projects that you have coming up, you're teaching through Jambays, right? Can you tell me the different projects that you have lined up real quickly?
Yeah, sure. And I'll send them to you too so you have the links. But jamplay.com, you can find me there. tylergrant.com is my main website, which is functional and all the info is there, but it's not nearly as nice as the Grant Farm website, which Adrian built for us. grantfarm.net, and that's still up to date and current. But tylergrant.com is all there. All of my, dates, the online shows and events are all up there, and ways to order merch and things. We've actually been doing this kind of name your own price for merch orders, because I've got this just storage shed full of albums and records, CDs, and a handful of Grant Farm shirts and things like that left. So I've been encouraging people to just reach out and say, hey, I want this and this and this, and I can afford this, and I'll work it out with them and ship it to them. But those are the main links. The Facebook page is where, for now, I'm learning the technology of restreaming to other platforms like YouTube, and ultimately I'll get this just right up on my website. But for now, the main attraction is facebook.com/Tyler Guitar. That's the Tyler Grant music page on Facebook.
All right, so we'll have the 4 links to the different ways that people can find you. Please keep it up. Thank you for your time. And when you guys decide to do this driveway thing, then I'd love to be part of it. So have a great day, Tyler. Thank you again for spending time with me.
Thank you, Eric. It's a real pleasure being here with you, and you take care as well.
All right.